Okay, let's set the scene. It's October 13th, 1972. A plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team just vanishes. It disappears over the Andes Mountains. Search parties look everywhere, but they find nothing. Absolutely nothing. So the world makes a grim assumption. They're all gone, lost forever in that frozen wilderness. For 72 days. Think about that for a second. More than 2 months. For 72 brutal, freezing days, the world believed they were dead. But they weren't. They were completely cut off from everything, facing conditions that you and I can barely even imagine. And then, after all official hope was gone, after everyone had moved on, word got out. 16 of them had survived. 16. So, the question is, how? How in the world did they survive the impossible? This story is, hands down, one of the most harrowing, but also inspiring accounts of human endurance ever told. It really makes you ask, what are we truly capable of when we're pushed to the absolute limit? So let's dive in and find out. All right, Section 1. It all starts on what should have been a totally normal, routine flight. So you've got this plane, Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571. It's packed with 45 people, the Old Christians rugby team, plus their friends and family. Everyone's in a great mood, you know? They're heading to a match in Santiago, Chile. The atmosphere is just buzzing. Laughter, excitement. It's supposed to be a quick 4-hour trip across the Andes. No one, absolutely no one, had any idea that this short flight was about to turn into the longest, most terrific journey of their lives. This is where everything starts to go wrong. The co-pilot, who was flying the plane for training, wasn't super experienced with this specific route. And here's the fatal mistake. They're flying through thick clouds, completely blind to what's outside. He miscalculates their position and thinks they've already cleared the massive Andes peaks. So, he starts the descent into Santiago. Way, way too early. And then, boom, the plane drops out of the clouds. And the first thing they see are these jagged, terrifying mountain peaks, just right there, meters away. The right wing hits a mountain and is just sheared clean off. A few seconds later, the entire tail section rips away, and it sucks 5 people out into the open air. The rest of the plane, now basically just a metal tube, slams into a snowy slope and slides for 725 meters at over 350 kilometers an hour. It's pure chaos. The impact was, just catastrophic. 12 people died instantly. But the horror didn't stop there. That first night, the temperatures just plummeted, and 5 more people died from their injuries and the brutal freezing cold. So within the first 24 hours, of the 45 people who boarded that flight, only 28 were left. And you have to understand, their ordeal had only just begun. Now, they were stranded, thousands of feet up in the Andes, one of the most hostile, unforgiving environments on the entire planet. You know, for the first few days, what kept them going was hope. They were absolutely certain that rescue teams were on their way. But here's the brutal reality of their situation. The plane's fuselage was white, making it practically invisible against the endless snow. Their food, it was almost nothing. Just a few chocolate bars, some crackers, a couple bottles of wine. And the nights? Oh man, the nights. Temperatures would drop to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Search planes literally flew right over them, again and again, but they never saw a thing. And then came the moment that shattered everything. On day 10, they managed to get a small transistor radio working. And huddled together for warmth, they heard the news they had been dreading. The official search had been called off. They were being given up for dead. Just imagine hearing that. To the entire world, they no longer existed. They were completely, utterly on their own. With the food all gone and starvation kicking in, they faced a choice that still haunts this story today. They made a pact, a truly impossible pact. They agreed that to stay alive, they would have to consume the bodies of their deceased friends. It was a collective, agonizing decision, giving each other permission to use their bodies for sustenance should they die. Can you imagine? It was a choice between their most deeply held beliefs and certain death. And just when you think things could not possibly get any worse, they do. It's day 17. They're all asleep, packed tightly into the fuselage just to stay warm. Suddenly, there's this terrifying roar. A massive avalanche comes crashing down the mountain and slams right into their shelter, filling it instantly and completely with snow. In a flash, they were buried alive. 8 more people died that night, suffocated under the immense weight of the snow. It took a desperate, frantic effort just to dig their way out. And when they finally did, only 19 of them were left. That avalanche, horrible as it was, became a turning point. It became crystal clear that waiting for a rescue that wasn't coming was a death sentence. Their only hope, their only chance, was to walk out of those mountains themselves. So they hatched a plan. It was a total long shot, a last gamble. They picked two of the strongest guys left, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, to make the trek. They pieced together a makeshift sleeping bag from insulation they ripped out of the plane's tail, and they decided to head west, thinking Chile was just over the next mountain range. But here's the thing, they had no mountaineering gear, no experience, nothing. All they had was the grim, absolute certainty that if they stayed put, they would die. It was walk or die. So after this superhuman 3-day climb, Nando Parado finally reaches the summit of a huge mountain. He's expecting to see salvation, right? The green valleys of Chile. But instead, he sees an endless, soul-crushing panorama of more and more snow-capped peaks stretching all the way to the horizon. It was a devastating discovery. They weren't one mountain away from safety. They were still in the heart of the Andes. And this chart, this really drives home the unbelievable physical toll this ordeal took. Look at these numbers. The average person started at around 78 kilograms. Numa Turcati, who was one of the last to die right before the expedition, weighed only 25 kilos. 25. Roberto Canessa, one of the guys on the trek, was down to 44 kilos by the time he was rescued. They were literally starving to death. But even after that crushing discovery on the mountaintop, Parado and Canessa knew turning back wasn't an option. So they just kept going. So for another 7 days, they pushed on, descending from the high peaks. Their bodies were failing, completely shutting down, but their will was somehow unbroken. And then, finally, a miracle. After 10 full days of walking, they finally reached a river. And on the other side, they saw a man on a horse. A person! The river was roaring, way too loud to yell across. So the man, a Chilean horseman, cleverly threw a rock over with a pen and paper tied to it. This is the note Nando Parado frantically wrote and threw back. Just listen to this. I come from a plane that fell in the mountains. We are hungry. Please. This was it. Their first contact with the outside world in over 2 months. Yeah, this timeline really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? 72 days. From the crash on October 13th, to the search being called off, the avalanche, that final desperate expedition, all the way to rescue on December 23rd. Just think, 2.5 months stranded in a frozen hell. The rescue helicopters arrived the next day, but because of the altitude and weight limits, they couldn't take everyone at once, so they had to split the rescue into 2 trips, forcing 8 of the survivors to spend one last agonizing night on that mountain, knowing help was just hours away. So the rescue happens, and the world is just stunned, absolutely stunned. The story of their survival was almost too incredible to believe. At first, when the details came out about how they survived, there was some shock, some public controversy, but that didn't last long. Over time, that judgment just melted away and was replaced by pure awe. Today, their story isn't really seen as one of horror. Instead, it's become this powerful symbol of human endurance, a true testament to teamwork, to faith, and to the absolute, unbreakable will to live. And really, their story leaves all of us with a pretty fundamental question. When you're faced with the truly unimaginable, when all hope seems lost and every single odd is stacked against you, what are the absolute limits of the human will? What can a person endure just to see one more sunrise?